I know what I want. I know what kind of God I need to be. For you. For all of us.
Welcome, everyone, to What the Fiction. I'm Marie-Claire Gould, your host, and with me, again,
as always,
for all time,
always, yeah, is me, Robin. Hi, I'm back.
Yay!
Yay!
And today we've brought back an old classic, which is, we still had some of our teas from when we did season 1 where we made custom teas for charity. Man, I had a lot more energy back then.
You did.
It was
you even put on makeup every single day because we were streaming.
Yeah, it was a different time. It was pre-COVID. Well, no,
it was mid-COVID.
It was mid-COVID, but I had nowhere else to be. So
yeah.
Can I have the spoon? I only brought down one spoon. I'm sorry.
Fine.
So, yeah.
I remember this one.
Today is the variant tea.
It tastes like Loki.
It tastes like Loki. It's got, from what I remember, it was like some Nordic sort of like flavoring.
It's pretty good, yeah.
It was the first one we decided to do for the live streams. And yeah, that's what we're having today. So you're welcome to join us and have a cup of tea.
It's very full circle
with us. It is for us full circle, much like this episode is called Glorious Purpose,
which is the same title as season 1, episode 1. So we have made a full loop as time is a circle.
As time is a circle.
That's a perfect segue to go to the next slide.
They have literally been very consistent with the themes, except for a few things, which we'll get into later on in the episode. Some slight criticisms I have about the episode.
Ends are hard. Ending a story is always very hard to do, especially a story with a lot of love put into it, as is the case with Loki.
Exactly.
So I fully understand when there is flaws in an end of a piece of media.
I just feel like if you're going to tell a story, you should really understand what you're trying to do with the story.
Yeah.
And all of the things that you tell along the way. And if those ends are all like
tied up.
And there's things about this story that, although I understand, I'm smart enough to understand, I'm sad.
Oh no, this end is freaking heartbreaking. I'm not okay, guys. I don't think I will be for a while. It's very good for what it is. It's very good.
I appreciated it. I just feel like there's a lot of things that are left on the floor because of it, and because of the choices that they made first season versus second season, and they laid a lot of groundwork and almost like symbolic Chekhov's guns, and then didn't fulfill some of those, which
they did fulfill some of them.
They fulfilled some of them, but they didn't fulfill all of them, and I think I know why, which is frustrating.
Sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. All right.
I would really like to say, just like for overview stuff, this episode has parallels to Groundhog Day.
Oh, it does.
The parallels to Groundhog Day are so good. The repeat it until you get it right. The we need to do this again and again and again. It's very good.
Well, like when we either deal with reincarnation or time going back until you get it right, you're always dealing with self-improvement stories, right? It's an idea that through multiple tries, and this is like a theme and something that we can take away from story itself. We never really run out of time to go back and try again and do it again. And so the Groundhog Day-ness of this episode is apropos, especially when you're somebody like Loki. right? So time is a circle, so is the hero's journey. So we're going to talk about that near the end. Purpose, it's glorious. Or is it?
Well, yeah, it's like purpose. Is it a burden or is it glory? You know?
Yeah. And this is something I think about a lot with regards to storytelling, especially with masculine characters in our media that oftentimes femme-identifying people identify with. And it's also the idea that the young man in this story is meant to be sacrificed. And I'm not saying that Loki is actually a young man, but he plays the sad, angry frown prince, which is a consistent archetype in Western media that is used for sacrificial. Willow, Ben Solo. There's a lot.
Oh, you love your sad, angry frown princes, don't you?
I have a type. Well, okay, so maybe my animus psychologically is a sad, depressed boy.
Also, dad.
Yes, dad fits sad, angry frown prince archetype. Yes, but it is something that we want. That part of, or at least I can speak for myself, I want that part of my fictional projection to be okay, to be redeemed, to be saved, to be able to have happiness in the end, because that is the hope that we have for young men across our
ideally
culture,
the world,
our cultures. And it's not happening. And many times it comes down to a combination of them seeking purpose and then understanding that they are worthy of love and need to live to receive it. And it's like that live to receive it doesn't seem to be connecting in modern Western media. And it is a total valuable subject for a PhD for somebody at some point.
Yeah, they'll credit you.
I doubt it. But this episode was also a mythic AF. I'm moving on to my second cup of tea because I just downed that sucker like crazy. I don't even know if
that's how distraught Mom is.
Still get this on the internet, but we are going to enjoy the last of our variant tea, bringing us full circle.
Indeed.
Yeah. This episode was very mythic. Hair. You had long hair when we started. It's true. You're like variant Robin.
You had long hair.
I had long hair. You had long hair. We both don't have long hair anymore. What is happening? How much can we affect time?
I was like Sylvia. I got bangs. Yeah. How much can we affect time? How much do we have any influence on time? It's super prevalent within the beginning as Loki tries to figure out like, how do I fix things? How do I like make a difference? I think it's super prevalent for our like modern day society too. Like we really want to we want to be remembered. I want to have an effect on people in my life. I want to be purposeful in my existence. And you know, it's within a different lens in Loki, because Loki's not, you know, on a continual like straight time axis. He's all over the place, right? And so he's trying to affect things that are already being affected by other stronger forces. He's trying to make a difference when, you know, he's slowly realizing, oh, I have to go back. I can't just stay here in this one moment and redo this one moment. I have to go back even further. Okay, I gotta go back further. I need to spend centuries learning engineering so that I can do this. Like it's, how much can we affect time? How much power do we have over the here and now and the past and our future?
Yeah, and how much outside influences really prevent us from succeeding or changing the world around us. Like He Who Remains sort of weighting the game in his direction.
also like that's influenced by, is there a god? Is there destiny? Is there fate? Is there choice? Because like an idea that Loki is constantly covering is, you know, what choice do we have?
Yeah.
Do we have choice? Who am I to make choices for other people?
Yeah.
And he who remains is kind of like a god in some ways. For a lot of it, he's like, I am the choice. I am the choice.
Yeah. I'm the only one with free will.
He never establishes why that's the sacred timeline. I don't think.
It's the one that doesn't develop Kang, because Victor Timely never develops into a Kang. That's the sacred timeline.
But still, what choice is that? You know, like,
it's the choice. Like, it's not a choice. It's almost like a non-choice.
It's
right?
like an arbitrary decision he's just made.
Well, he's made it based on the likelihood of a Kang developing in that timeline, and Victor Timely doesn't develop into a Kang, and so
he just gets to be a little silly guy.
He gets to be a little dude that talks about time and thinks about time and is kind of a shyster.
Yeah, he's
yeah.
It's interesting.
So the episode starts out with them reminding Victor Timely to be brave. Time to be brave. Time to be brave. It's repeated. Be brave. Time to be brave. It's repeated all the time through this episode. And so I think, Robin, we're going to talk about the things that we know that the episode was trying to do. And I think occasionally I'm going to talk about where the episode maybe wasn't as successful. I'm not sure how much I want to save that for critique at the end. But we'll see. But this is one of those things that I think it was quite successful in, because you hear it repeated both by others and through Loki's own mouth, and it's like he's trying to tell himself to be brave, to take this step forward.
Yeah, there's a lot of repetition in this episode, especially like all of the hard lessons that Loki's trying to confront are repeated by himself, by others, over and over and over again. Like, we get like lots of reoccurring motifs and stuff in this episode. It's very interesting.
So Loki time skips in, and they try to go forth and are unsuccessful. And over this plays Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, which I found super duper interesting. And then it switches into a faster disco version of the Fifth Symphony. But I couldn't figure out why it was the Fifth Symphony. So if you have an idea or a theory about why it was Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, please do tweet at me on Twitter or Blue Sky, or leave a comment on YouTube, on the YouTube channel, because I have no ideas. I blame my sick brain. You can probably tell by my voice that
And the fact that you just like coughed into the mic.
Well, I'm going to edit that out, I hope. But yeah.
Yeah. I think like, yeah. Sorry, I have a thought, but I don't know where to put it.
No, say it.
Like in this scene, we see a lot Loki's like repeating again, faster this time.
Yeah.
Like over and over again. And it feels like, I don't know, something about that, like, again, over and over, feels like a very tired director trying to get the perfect cut of a scene.
Right.
He's trying, like, Loki is trying to achieve a vision of a perfect result, a vision which he doesn't even really fully understand yet.
Yep.
And so he's, like, going to people for help. Like, what can I do? What can I do? I need this to be perfect. I need it to be exactly how it is in my head. But, like, does he even fully understand what's in his head? You know, he's trying to fundamentally change.
Because it starts out as him trying to save the TVA, and then he's trying to save the fact that multiple timelines exist, and then he's trying to save Sylvie's life. Like, it literally goes from those perspectives throughout the episode.
And he's trying to fundamentally change a scene which has been built up from so many things being pulled together, and he's struggling to influence something which is so many more, you know, strong factors at play. And he's like trying so many things, and he's like, I also like that this is not anti-intellectualism. It's very intellectual, actually. Like this, there's a lot of scenes in the time where he's like, oh, I need to go ask for help. I need to ask for help from somebody
from
smarter.
Experts. Yeah.
I need to study for centuries to learn about this thing so I can change this one result. Like it's, I don't know. I was like, yay.
So he starts out with just straight, hey, if I can do this faster, if I can align everything, if I know everything perfectly, I can line everything up and we will still do it. But then he realizes there was time lost by not going back earlier. And so he says,
hey, Mom.
Yeah.
It's almost like he goes from science to fiction.
So he even goes and like confronts Miss Minutes and says like, hey, Miss Minutes, I know we don't get along, but maybe you could help me out in this. And then he goes back even further. And it's like he continuously tries to avoid being the one to do the actual end act, other than he'll do everything else but the end act. He'll go and learn physics. He'll go and make peace with his enemies. He'll do absolutely everything but the end sacrifice. So in that way, this episode builds up quite successfully into what ends up happening at the end.
It's what you hypothesized when we first initially watched the 4th episode. And
I did.
You were like, he's going to be that one who has to do it.
He has to be the one who has to sacrifice himself for everything. And it's so big in the King arc that you have to be the one to like sacrifice yourself for it.
I love you, dark, angry Crown Prince.
Yeah. Which he is, right?
I also love how like Mobius and Sylvie are like consistently the only ones to notice that he's acting weird.
Super weird, right?
Yeah, he's like, Mobius is like, what are you talking about? And Sylvie's like, are you okay? Like,
and so he's like, maybe I'm just not good enough to do this. So he literally questions whether he himself as Loki has the skills to get this done. And so he asks OB, how long would it take for me to know everything that you know? And OB's like kind. He's like, decades. And Victor Timely's like, centuries. Centuries later. That was such a great like cut. I was like, oh my god, it is Groundhog Day in that.
It is. It's
like
very funny.
He wanted to learn how to dance. He wanted to learn how to
play piano.
He wanted to learn how to be a better human. And this is like part of that self-improvement thing of you want to make the right decisions for yourself is self-improvement, and pulling together, like working on yourself is like really, really key to this. But it's again, it's super fascinating that he is going everywhere in every direction, but in the direction of you must be brave. And it is the message that he tells Timely the whole episode. Every single time Timely is in that situation, be brave, be brave, be brave, be brave. And it's the one thing he needs to tell himself. And so yeah, he even like still insists, even after learning all of this physics, even after learning all of these things, he still says, Victor, you volunteer.
I do also want to say, I forgot to mention this is a major theme for some reason, but like a big theme within Loki is like, and this episode in particular, experiences change us.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's like a big thing in Groundhog Day too, but it's like, we are changed by our experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And Loki is changed by his experiences in these many centuries.
He doesn't want to die. Like he doesn't want to die.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't want to be the one who has to sacrifice himself. And that reluctance, that I'm not the one who's willing to go through the door, I'm not the one who's willing to go past the threshold, is a major theme for the king who is reluctant to die. It's a big theme in the Bible with Jesus not wanting to die and like feeling like,
wait, is Jesus a dark, angry crown prince?
Absolutely.
I love that.
Sad, angry found prince.
Sorry.
Sad. not necessarily dark, although often correlates.
Often has dark hair.
Yeah. Anyway, so, it's him, you volunteer, and Sylvie absolutely, like Mobius in certain scenes, is like, what the hell is your problem? And, he tries to align everything to be perfect, and it works, quote unquote, but it doesn't, because there's something else that they haven't been able to account for. The fact that the change that they want to initiate is infinite.
Yeah, I think in this whole first, bam, 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 quick part, I really do think that the writing here is brilliant.
Yeah.
I think that the writers did a really good job, because it really shows through the whole episode that Loki has been through these exact situations hundreds of times.
Yeah.
He's doing this over and over to try and get it right, to change minute things, to he's like doing the scientific process in some ways, just like, if I stand a little to the left, does that change the outcome? Yeah.
And it leads to Sylvie saying, it seems since I killed he who remains, this was doomed to happen, which leads him down the
I gotta
path.
go talk to He Who Remains. Yeah,
I must go and talk, or I must go and maybe try and talk reason into Sylvie so this doesn't happen. Which is, he's now sort of like negotiating with the devil in this phase. And Kyle actually pointed out that the three people that Loki goes and talks to, He Who Remains in this moment, Mobius later on in the episode, and then Sylvie, they all know more than him in that moment.
He's going to the people who triangles. He went to the triad of people.
He did, yeah.
It's the rule of 3.
And the different aspects of people who know things about him or have faith that he can do something. Certainly He Who Remains is more like a devil-like character.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Temptation. And actually Mobius as well is a sort of temptation, or a I have some comments on Mobius's stuff, because he's very resigned to committing genocide, which is a choice.
It makes sense for where he was. In
yeah.
the timeline.
Yeah.
I have thoughts on the Mobius stuff, and we're gonna fight about it later.
Okay, so Loki returns and he fights with Sylvie and tries to convince her, and
this scene is so interesting, because
it is
there's actually a really important distinction made in when he's doing the over and over again fighting Sylvie, right? Because Sylvie says, you've been seduced by a throne. And he's like, the last thing I want is a throne. And that distinction is really important, because later we see him ascend to a throne, and we know that he's not taking that throne because he wants a throne, but he's taking a throne because he knows that that's what he has to do. And that line is really important to me, just for solidifying.
It was in the first. It was in the last episode of last season too. So she accused him of that in that too. So it is something that he has either talked about wanting for himself for selfish reasons, or denying that he wants because he has grown beyond that into more selfless awareness, which is great. And so he tries several approaches with He Who Remains. It's a really fun scene that goes back and forth. And eventually he's like, why don't you stop her? To He Who Remains. He's like, how many times have you done this? And he freezes her. And I loved this moment where he's like, don't worry, lover boy, she's okay. Because we don't get as much what I would classify as on-screen intimacy, except for their faces. Their faces are oddly readable in this season, but this is like the one call out to say, like, this is why Loki is cares so much. He cares about all of the people in the TVA, and he cares about Mobius, but like this moment of like, he cannot kill Sylvie is the reason he does what he does at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And I just like, we need to call that out to say, like, that's what is being said with this moment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He doesn't want to exist in a multi-universe without her, which is interesting. And so he says, like, how did you know? Oh, about the time slipping? You know, oh, kiddo, did you really think I was just going to sit back and let her kill me? So this is kudos to Robin.
Yay, I was right. I was freaking right.
That this was, of course, like part of the plan the whole time, and that he had kind of put in not just the loom as a failsafe, but also the fact that there's this almost gambit existing with He Who Remains, where he is depending on Loki to be selfish enough to want what he wants at the exclusion of everywhere else. And so let's just talk about the Loki that was in the 2012 Avengers movie.
Yes,
the Loki,
Battle of New York.
That Loki would do anything he would want for what he wanted. He would destroy the earth for what he wanted.
For power, yeah.
Yeah, for power, or what he wanted. That is not the Loki that is standing before He Who Remains. He will not kill the universe.
Yeah.
Just solely so that he can have a happy ending.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, you know, this is brought up. I really love the line R.I.P. HWR. That was great.
Oh man, I've been thinking about it, and it's like, He Who Remains is like, see you soon, from like last season, that we were like, what do you
mean? Yeah.
That has like a double meaning now.
Yeah, it does.
It's like, see you soon,
like,
because
he'll come back
and fight you in the multiversal war. But no, he actually means, I've laid the groundwork. You are going to come find me again, and we will be having a conversation.
Yeah,
see you soon.
I'll be back. Yeah.
Reincarnation, baby.
Yeah, and so this is the idea that this is like a psychological concept, as well as like something that's happening in the show. He exists in all of these different multiverses in different ways, not necessarily all in the same way. Like, he was born in the year 3000 in an alternate timeline. From the one he chose to save as the sacred timeline. But the line he says next, Loki in reaction, was, we are born with the dead and we die with the living, or we die with the dying and we are born with the dead, is actually from a T.S. Eliot poem called The Little Gidding. And it's primarily about the idea when our lives are reborn when we see somebody else die because of a reminder of our own mortality. It makes us appreciate the time we have and our newfound humanity in trying to keep spiritually alive. The awareness of death allows us to truly live.
Yeah, that's a big thing in The Good Place too.
It is, yeah.
There is no joy without an overwhelming sense of dread.
Like, how can you live if you're immortal and, you know, don't have a purpose, right? Yeah. And the idea of death makes the finite time that we have together precious. And so it's a reminder for us to use that time and not waste it. And in that way, as part of the collective, we continue on too. So it's a line about purpose, and it's about understanding that these things have a way of coming back to us multiple times. And he's in some ways has been living in a very tight reincarnation cycle, working through all of the different aspects of his life. And he surprises He Who Remains by pausing Sylvie. And He Who Remains goes like, you got me. You pretended. And yes, this is the gambit that everything will be destroyed. You lose. Everything will be destroyed because the loom itself prevents the multiversal war. It's the fail-safe. And if you destroy that, then the multiverse will exist and everything will be destroyed. The loom will destroy everything. Or if you destroy the loom, everything will be destroyed. There is destruction either way. And so the tough choice, and he says, I make big choices, and that's why I get the chair.
I get the big chair.
I get the big chair.
You get the big chair.
Yeah, exactly.
I think, and then like getting this, like having this moment where, you know, Loki sees the equation for the loom, I think, and like realizes it's a failsafe. There's nothing I can do to change the loom, to expand it or fix it or do anything. I need to, you know, I need to figure it out. I need to change the equation.
So if he breaks the loom, it causes war. If he leaves the loom, he has to kill Sylvie.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he's presented with. Yeah.
And I think Loki doesn't like having his hand forced because he's still a Loki, and he doesn't like when that binary option is presented with him. I mean, that's why he's genderqueer and queer.
Gender fluid too.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's what genderqueer means. He's like, he doesn't like having his hand forced, and so he's like, I'm gonna find my own road. I'm gonna take a new path, Mr. He Who Remains. You are not allowed to fight me.
Yep. And you know, he even like says like every moment of peace or non-suffering was because I was here alone at the end of time. And so this is like foreshadowing where Loki is going to end up, right? Like that, you know, maybe he can't change how the multiverse has been set up because of He Who Remains' choices, but he could fully replace He Who Remains and accept the fate. And this is where like I struggle with the preposition of the argument a little bit. Like, he really is giving him no choice, and the writers are giving us no choice as an audience to only like that. Alone at the edge of the universe, humming a tune. It's
a line from a song from Sweet Dream in C major, I think. It's a song, and it's like, I don't know, it felt very fitting for yeah. The line is like so similar. It's like, alone at the edge of a universe, humming a tune.
Who sings that?
I don't know. I believe they're in relation to Tally Hall.
Oh, okay.
Ignore me.
And so we get him looking at frozen Sylvie. And we hear the audio cut of Mobius saying, "What are you going to do?" So this brings us to Like, your choice is kill Sylvie or, you know, let everything burn. And, you know, Loki goes in and has this conversation that he's burdened with glorious purpose with Mobius. And he asks for Mobius for his help about, and Mobius's advice ends up coming out that most purpose is a burden, is more burden than glory. And
Loki goes to find his support system.
He does, yeah. Which is like it's not what or where or when, it's
or why.
Who.
Yeah.
Right? Always, yeah. And he, you know, Mobius has this really close relationship with Renslayer and really identifies with her and the hard choices that she's had to make. And Loki still can't wrap his head around like the logic of like, it's okay to just murder entire timelines, because he's no longer that Loki.
Yeah.
That would have listened to that and thought it was completely reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
And it really sucks that like that's the discussion that he gets to have with Mobius before he ends up at the end of time.
It's okay. I think like just a random theory I had, just a connection. I think part of the reason past Mobius in the story that Mobius tells hesitates about the kids is like because of his own kids, like subconsciously.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Thought that was an interesting
It
detail.
would be like if they asked him to destroy a jet ski to save the universe.
No.
Kids in a jet ski. Yeah.
Mobius like provides this context that maybe Loki needs to fulfill his purpose even if it's a burden.
Yeah, which is the point of the conversation, but it kind of ends up coming off from Mobius like, yes, go commit genocide.
Well, I don't think.
I mean, I'm just, how it can be read is not as pretty as that, but he does take away that he has to make a hard choice.
Because Loki's filtering out all of the TVA nonsense that's being fed to Mobius. Like, if he went to go have a current Mobius conversation,
it would be much more kind.
Like,
yes.
It would be, he wouldn't tell that same story. He might tell a different story.
Yeah.
But he would still tell a story that illustrates that most purpose is burden.
Mm-hmm.
And that would still lead Loki to the same
He could have gone to
conclusion.
Mobius in the automat and had some pie. And he chose here.
Yeah, right?
Right?
I think also this is a very emotionally charged moment for Loki because he was so confused back then. He needed the guidance.
And he had like everything taken out from under him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
And he was on such a high too. Bro was like, he's got the Tesseract. He's going places.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then he goes and speaks with Sylvie and shows her that he now has the ability to pause time and take things out of time and space. And so, like, time is nothing to him any longer. It means nothing to him. He himself is out of time and space, which was the development from the first part of the season.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, the only way to fix this is if I never kill he who remains in the first place. And she tells him, I'm not going to give you my blessing. Because she recognizes instantly that he's like, yeah, I got to kill you to do that. They know each other so well.
I love that.
Such an important moment there. And, you know, who are you to decide that we can't die fighting?
Is another like continuation of the automat conversation here where it's like Loki is going to Sylvie for help for an idea of like he understands I may have my purpose is my burden and I will carry it with me. It is not all glory, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he's still missing something else, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Sylvie provides the idea that Loki should destroy what's there in hopes to build something for the better, right?
Exactly. And she's like, well, you can't replace one nightmare with another. That doesn't make anything better. But he's like, well, maybe I could replace everybody's nightmare with one nightmare for myself. And that's the realization that he has in this moment, and says, if there's hope that you can replace that thing with something better, like, do you do it? And this is it. Like, he's like crying in this moment, which was like stunning, and like the realization. And as much as like I don't like this ending for him and the character, and
Oh, nor do I.
what is happening, like, this was really well done. It just like, it frustrates me, but that this was the gambit that the writers ended up putting him in, and couldn't think of a better, more alchemical union solution, or a one where he can have, you know, sort of a middle path that doesn't involve him being alone, which was his fear to begin with.
You
There
want
is-
him to have a middle place.
Exactly. And there is something about the archetype that he's fulfilling that is about walking down the path alone. But there are alternative solutions to that. And so unless this is playing into a longer term plan where they're going to plan on bringing him back and utilizing him in a way, and letting him have his hug from Thor and kiss Sylvie and give a slick high five to Mobius. Wow.
I still ship them.
I know, but
And I actually have like grounds for my shipping now, my multi-shipping. This episode gave me like fodder. I was great.
it was like they were like listening to Twitter, and like were listening to the complaints, and
They're
just
like, it's fine. Multi-shippers, go.
I know. I'm just not.
You're not all about that. It's fine.
I'm not a fan of them sort of changing things midstream, if that makes sense.
I don't actually think they changed anything. I think they just intentionally placed Mobius.
Slightly behind to the
Yeah.
left.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. So he shows back up at the critical moment where everybody is shocked at what is happening. It's not any different from this timeline. This is him. They've just opened up the blast doors.
He who remains is still dead.
He who remains is still dead. Sylvie and Loki still got their kiss. Everything is still the same. He just returned to the time by which the blasters were open after the first episode of the second season. So, like, after the last episode.
Mm-hmm.
After the episode by which everything gets
the
destroyed.
fourth episode.
After the fourth episode. I'm tired.
It's okay.
But they are able to see, okay, he still has like no time. The time that Victor Timely was going to take to get down there. He's like, no, I'm just going to go. I've made the decision. Victor is always the one who's like, I volunteer. And he realizes it's got to be Loki. And there's your moment. There's your shipper moment.
Are you mad that you predicted that it had to be Loki?
No, I'm not mad. It archetypically aligns up, and so I literally can't be mad. It's just I wish the writers were smarter than me.
Yeah, that's
And they allowed for a joyful and alchemical union of opposites. It doesn't have to be sacrificial. People can find alternative solutions.
I'm very tired of this trope in Marvel. And if you saw is the Marvels thing already out?
Yeah, it's already out.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
if you are somehow a god at listening to What the Fiction, you may have heard the Marvels thing where everyone is really frustrated at Marvel because it makes some really silly choices. And this is one of them. I'm really tired of the I'm gonna sacrifice myself trope, which Marvel has been using in almost every single piece of media recently, like going back to like Multiverse of Madness. I'm just very tired of people dying.
So there's a reason for this, and I'm by far not the expert. I actually rely on my good friend Ty Black to talk to me about this, because I've read part of the book, but I haven't read the whole book. This is called the American monomyth, and it ties into the idea that in Western media, there must be the sacrificial hero who saves the village, the society, and then must leave.
Oh, like in Ted Lasso.
Yeah, exactly.
Ugh,
Yeah.
I just
And
don't
when
like
you
it.
start seeing it, you become more and more frustrated with it. And I'm going to talk about it at the end about what it means and why it's not as satisfying psychologically to keep a hero stuck in the underworld effectively or in the other place. So
they're putting Loki in a position where he's not dead. So we're not, oh, he's so dead, I'm so sad. But he's also not living. He's not experiencing joy.
Exactly.
Yeah. Annoying. But yes, multi-shipping moment where they're both at the door and he's like, oh, this quote is so good. He says, I know what I want. I know what kind of god I need to be for you.
Yeah.
And we don't know which you he's talking to, but Sylvie has a reaction, so we assume it's Sylvie. But also, it's also Mobius.
I don't care. I literally don't care. But I mean, archetypically, there's some this stuff going on with Sylvie. So,
but it's also good. Mobius in a lot of ways.
Oh no, it's like the whole TVA. It's every human in the multiverse as well.
He's looking at both of them, and then he says, for all of us, like for everyone, for you guys. And for everyone, I'm going to make the sacrifice.
And it's so beautiful. Like,
and this beautiful transition where,
was he wearing those underneath his clothes the whole time? He was wearing his Loki pajamas the whole time. He gets the biggest horns.
I love it. It's an embracing of the man underneath it all. Mm-hmm. Loki underneath all of he's been in very classic timeless outfits. This is very, very Loki. This is classic, like the flowing robes and the giant horns. Like, I don't know what particularly influences this outfit, but I feel like it's very
and the horns themselves are like the He Who Remains castle at the end of time. And so like there's this idea like he's taking on sort of like endless power.
R.I.P. HWR.
R.I.P. HWR. He is dead, not coming back.
I think it's so interesting because it's like his outfit is influenced by sort of like a kingly appearance. He looks like a king. He doesn't look like, I'm an office worker with my friend Mobius and we're buddy cops. No, he looks like that's a king.
Yeah.
That's the story weaver. That's the man who is the crux, the middle of the tree.
And he is taking on the role, the archetype of the ruler. And I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. Ooh. So he breaks the loom, which frees the multiverse, and it's all these tiny little threads, which is so cute. These tiny little like
he's gonna weave them
strings that it reminded me of Across the Spider-Verse.
Oh yeah.
It's sort of like how like the multiverse appears to that, which is great. And he realizes, oh, the threads are dying, and so he needs to give of himself actively to keep all of these timelines, the multiverse, everything alive. And Sylvie says he's giving us a chance. Okay. And then he gathers.
And I like that the throne becomes gold.
Yeah, because it's his golden throne. Sit on a golden throne. It's like callback. And he embraces all of the threads that are all connected to each other and pushes his life force and power through them, and thus enabling them to become, instead of the multiversal timeline, the multiversal tree.
It's a tree.
Which is Yggdrasil.
Yeah,
like the tree of the 9 realms. It is from like,
myth.
Norse mythology,
which is great. I love that. That's very on brand, and I'm very happy that they've actually been embracing a bit more of the Norse mythology, trying like, I'm sure it's not making the Norse people all that happy, but it's making them slightly happier. Like, I heard that like the most accurate version of Thor has been when he was fat. Fat Thor. I love it.
Yes.
Yeah.
He would slay his goats every night and eat them.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. And I think just like No.
Are we starting?
Wow. It's just to summarize. You know,
listen.
Loki has found his most burdensome, most glorious purpose, because it's both. It is both glory and it is both burden. And is willing to sacrifice everything to sit and watch over the infinity of time forever.
Yeah, and essentially the decision that was made was he would rather sacrifice his own life so that Sylvie could live and that everything could be okay. Then
so
for
Mobius could fulfill his tiny subplot.
Yeah, so he could have some character growth.
Yay!
I mean, he literally established that.
Just the imagery is freaking gorgeous.
Oh, it's gorgeous. I wanted a poster of this. I was like, this is the coolest thing. Yeah.
He's the loom with no throughput capacity.
Yeah.
I had so many one-liners when I was sitting in the bath coming up with this.
That's very queer. Yeah, so I did want to call out that this actually comes from a place actually in the comics where Loki is randomly stuck in a tree and can only be released if somebody sheds a tear for him.
Oh, so when is he getting released?
And this is just like he's stuck in a tree in Asgard, and
it's so random.
Heimdall is the one who ends up shedding a tear for him.
I love you, Heimdall.
Yeah, in the comics. Yeah, so I thought that was super funny that there is actually like comic tie-in for this weirdo moment.
Bro is in a tree
with this choice, but I am reminded of the fact that this feels super familiar from a Western media perspective.
Mm-hmm.
It reminds me a lot of Atlas holding the globe on his back, right? Like this idea that you're kind of eternally tormented to carry the weight of the galaxy.
That holds the sun? There's a guy who holds the sun in Greek mythos, I think.
I mean, Helios is the sun.
Well, there's somebody that holds the sun up, I'm pretty sure.
Apollo brings the sun around every day. I don't know. But Atlas holds the earth up.
Yeah.
And I'm also reminded of Osiris in that when he was killed by his brother Set, he becomes the god of the underworld, but and is sort of there to judge everybody's stories. But Osiris was allowed to live with Isis, even though he himself was dead. Isis was allowed to visit him. And to me, it's like, I don't think that they're stopping that from happening from a Sylvie perspective, because she can go anywhere in the multiverse because of the tempad that she has.
Thor and Loki better have a meetup.
But it does make me question, like, if, like, based on the words of Tom Hiddleston when he talked about this, like, on talk shows, like, this is the end of a 14-year journey for him. Like, is he going to be back? And I think for us as viewers, like, we need to view stories when they have a logical conclusion like this as the end and just be happy if they come back. But I don't want to rely on that from a story perspective. I think that's bad storytelling, and I'm really frustrated with it when it comes to Marvel, that they leave stories much like Jane being in Asgard. It's like, oh, good, she's not dead, I guess, but she's dead. But, like, also, like,
I think
I hate it.
Yeah, thanks. I hate it. And I'm, like, that the actors obviously deserve to get a say in what they want to continue doing. And, like, I think Tom Hiddleston not coming back is a totally valid career choice, because he's been doing this for 14 years. But also, it's like, for character, just to complain about character, I don't know if this is a very fulfilling end, and I was really hoping that we would get a good end for this show, because we've not had a good end in a while.
Hawkeye was a good end.
I haven't seen it.
I know, we're watching it now. Yeah, I know. Okay, well,
I don't know if Winter Soldier had a good end either.
I like the end of Winter Soldier.
Okay, I need to watch that one too.
Yeah. Falcon and the
WandaVision didn't have a good end.
I know.
WandaVision.
It's like, frustrating.
And Multiverse of Madness was just worse.
Yes. So we cut back to the TVDA, and they've got cool new posters on the walls. Let's grow together. It has the whole tree.
Let's water the tree, but
Let's water the tree.
besties.
And Miss Minutes is there, and she won't want to kill us, will she? It's like, oh, don't know. The tree is now what's important. We have this shot of the case that they're investigating in a 616 adjacent realm. So 616 is the former sacred timeline.
Yeah. I don't know why it's not 1. Why isn't it number 1? Because it was the first.
Because Marvel has always called
I
this universe 616.
I know that because I know minor things about the Marvel comics, but
Yeah.
like, it's annoying.
It's just,
Especially with how they're doing the MCU,
yeah.
like with the sacred timeline, and then it becomes multiple multiverses.
So this could have happened a millennia ago, and we just didn't know it.
Yeah.
Right. So it just is what it is, right? But they call out that there was an He Who Remains variant in this adjacent realm. And guess what story that was?
What story?
Quantumania.
Oh, yeah.
And they took care of it. So there's nothing for them to worry about.
That's wild.
And Mobius and B-15
Quantumania was weird.
have a conversation about keeping the paintings up on the wall of like the timekeepers and the mistakes that were made. And he says, those who do not remember the past, you know. And that's actually a quote from George Santayana, who was a philosopher, talked about those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it. And it was a warning about not studying history and understanding the consequences.
And that's why they make me take 3 years of history in high school.
And really, we need to continuously refresh ourselves on the shadows of our past and when we've made mistakes to not fall down those paths again. But Loki has left the TVA in good hands to continuously protect free will. That was the goal this whole time, was that people like Loki can exist.
I mean, Sylvie's the one who made the argument, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And so Mobius has made the decision to leave the TVA and go and check out his life.
We don't know if he goes back at all. I kind of assume he goes back because he's not going to just like replace himself.
Yeah.
It's a little weird.
Yeah.
But I called it. We came to this conclusion that he was going to go look at his past life to have some character development.
We're both happy about that.
I think this is the best end possible for Mobius, actually.
Do you want the Marvel rumors or not?
Sure. Yeah. Tell me.
All right. So there is a rumor that Mobius M. Mobius is a character in the new Deadpool movie.
I'm not allowed to see that, right?
I think you're old enough now.
Oh, cool. Sick. Maybe I'll watch the other ones. Because I want Mobius. Yay.
And Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman.
Keep Owen Wilson in the freaking
wow.
Marvel.
Does that deserve
Wow.
what does that deserve a wow?
Wow. Yeah.
Wow.
You're just being goated on by Megan's words.
Yes, thank you, Megan, for telling us that our Owen Wilson impression was
funny.
Good. Kyle thinks it sounds like Jennifer Coolidge. So wow.
But yeah, I mean, you think the TVA is going to miss a tired, washed up old analyst with a heart of gold? I think there's one or two who will.
Yeah, I'm going to miss him. He was great in this show.
Oh, God. Season 2, I think he was even better.
Mm-hmm.
Because they were like, oh, crap, we haven't given him any character development. We're going to have Sylvie and Loki and everyone yell at him 3 times.
Yeah.
3 times before you learn. Triangles.
Yeah. We got the revised edition or second edition of the TVA handbook, which is great.
It's yellow.
It's yellow. It's like a color change. It's so good.
He wrote a bestseller.
Obi is like best boy. I love him. I want more stories from Obi. It's so good.
I want more Casey too.
And then we get a quick shot of Ravonna at the end of time,
Yeah.
which is interesting, where the TVA is destroyed and the TVA is like under, because it says for all time underneath it. So question mark, question mark, question mark. What do we have to expect from Ravonna in the future? I hope they make her Kang. Like she's actually a Kang variant. We just didn't know this whole time. I just hope that happens.
That would be really cool.
Because it would be a way to replace the actor who plays He Who Remains currently. And it would be like, I don't know, just like a better choice.
It would be, that's a
And
really smart narrative choice.
Dope actress. Oh my God.
Also, like, we didn't get Brad. No Brad.
He didn't need more story. He got an entire episode.
He needed like a 2-second clip.
He needed nothing. I don't like him. So we get Mobius.
Why? You don't like Brad?
I don't like Brad. No.
As a character?
Yep.
Or as an actor?
Nothing.
Okay, Mom.
I just don't like the character. Okay. I'll get to it with my critiques of this season. But so we have Mobius checking out his life.
The weird blue background for me.
What, them?
Yeah, them on the blue. It's like almost too blue. It looks like they're standing behind. Wow. It looks like they're standing behind a photograph of like a blue sky.
Yeah. You know, and like,
why did I think he was on a jet ski at first?
Yeah.
He's gonna go jet skiing.
Yeah. So this ties into one of my complaints, so I could probably say it now since we're near the end of the slides, etc. But I think psychologically, people who identify with both Sylvie and Loki as a pair will probably not be happy with this episode as well, because if you're there, first you've been given the symbolism that they're stronger together through the first season and through the first half of this season.
Yeah.
When they hold hands, they're super powerful. Loki seems to lack her or need her in a lot of ways.
Even in the elevator scene when she's like, "Oh, you're here. I'm so happy to see you." Like, no, I didn't want to hate this episode.
I think it's an understandable ending from a certain lens. And it leans into not allowing the hero to return home to give knowledge to others, which, you know, when we get to this, like even Sylvie and Mobius are like, yeah, I wish Loki was here. like they're even like, I wish Loki was here because he could teach us something. He has.
It's weird without him.
It's weird without him. What would Loki? It's weird without Loki here. Like, what would he say? What would he do? And it's like, okay, yes, exactly. That vacuum, that feeling of things missing is super important and we desperately need.
Do you think that Loki needed to sacrifice himself for the plot? Do you think he could have joined all the timelines, created the tree, and then walked away?
So with how they presented it in the episode, the timelines die without being actively connected to him.
But they weren't.
They would have had to have written it differently or said Sylvie is there with him, so he's not alone.
Yeah.
And I think that would have been a better choice.
Also, I think leaving Sylvie alone maybe opens up like options for like Sylvie to be used in like different movies, etc. But I don't even think she is going to be, because she was a Loki exclusive character in some ways.
In some ways, yeah. And okay, so this
like,
goes.
Why can't she be? Why can't?
I mean, do you want to talk about where I feel like the femme characters in this season totally got the shaft? Do you want me to talk about that now, or do you want me to talk about that later? Because it ties into
You can
this.
talk about it now. Because I think B-15 also kind of got the shaft this whole time.
And Renslayer.
Yeah.
And like literally the femme characters.
Mobius got more plot than
Mobius
B-15.
and OB Casey got more character development than Sylvie did.
Yeah.
Like,
which is ridiculous considering that they're
and considering how Sylvie was paired as just an equal.
She was
and
meant to
opposite,
be his equal,
equal and opposite Loki.
I wish, like, because putting like, okay, as much as I love Mobius and Sylvie and Loki as like a triangle, right?
Mhm.
I do think that the basis of that triangle needs to be Loki and Sylvie, right? It needs to be the two of them. And I think by putting Mobius and Sylvie distinct, but close enough to Loki, but distinctly away from him, like with the literal blockage of that door, it hurts the plot. Because he's going through this whole episode alone. He is alone in this episode. He doesn't have the, like... Can you imagine if he was time slipping with Sylvie? Or if he was figuring these things out and then talking to Sylvie about them? Like
Sylvie ends up giving him the idea.
Yeah.
Like, so, okay, I guess. But it does mean that like a character that was sort of paired as a dual protagonist in the first season, like they were together, and you know, like the train scene on Lamentus and like them sitting on the beach and like all of this stuff that was built up in first season, and even how lost he was without her at the start of this first season,
and even in the start of the second season,
at the start of this season, like he was lost and he was like, oh, I don't
Sylvie
know.
was a dual protagonist then, even with
Yeah.
all of the McDonald's scenes, with the vinyl scene, with all of these things. Sylvie has always been his like number two, his duo, his like
his
pal.
other half, and he is alone at the end of the universe. And sometimes you're the only one who can walk your own path, which I totally get. And that's where I want to talk about the failure to return, the refusal to return, which is in a hero's journey. When you go on a hero's journey,
So maybe he's gonna come back.
okay. So yes, if they want to tell a satisfactory story across the Marvel
they
universe,
actually release a 7th episode.
they won't.
It
But
would be really funny though,
because they feel like this is a satisfying ending, but it's not. And the reason is because it is important for the hero to return from the underworld with the knowledge that they have in hand, the lessons that they have learned, the elixir that they have gathered, and give that elixir to the other people that they care about. Right now, he is just holding up the world tree so that others don't actively die. And so there's this big void and question mark in the story itself from a mythic perspective, from a psychological mythic perspective, that the refusal to return means he is the forever ruler. He is a forever ruler, much like archetypically Christ and God are in heaven. And he will be flat and he will not change in a positive or negative way. He will continue to maintain and be the God of stories and the God of the time. And it's so depressing for me personally.
it really is, yeah.
And I highly recommend you search out Ty Black's thoughts on the American monomyth. She just tweeted this really cool thread on it, because it is what it is. It is the idea that the hero's journey continues on to return home so that they can make the society that they come from a better place. And the American monomyth requires sacrifice of the hero to the story so that the gaping wound of our heroes can never be fulfilled and we can never grow as a community. It is a weird thing and I hate it. So those are my main critiques for the season.
There are a lot of things I do actually love, because I think we should
talk
about
what we loved. I thought the cinematography,
it was so beautiful. The colors,
yeah,
the cinema. There are so many scenes in this like show
episode and scene and the show itself. Yeah,
it's beautiful. Like scenes that stand out. Episode 5, the vinyl scene with Sylvie. This final stuff with the tree and like all of the CGI they did for that. It was beautiful. Props to those people because they were having fun. Like, oh, who's the CGI guy that like directed an episode?
Yes, I don't remember.
I'm sure
his
he
name.
had fun.
Yeah. Oh, he did the one with the McDonald's too.
Yeah.
And filming in the McDonald's is so cool.
This season was better than the first season, in my opinion. This last episode sours it a little bit, but I do actually.
And it's hard for me because it's a continuous story. So like, if we get Loki back and they continue, it's always like if. What I hate about Marvel is because it's a continuous story, they rely on the idea that the character could come back, or they could come back another time, but it doesn't save us from the pain of the loss of Black Widow, and it doesn't save us from the pain of Loki being stuck literally at the end of time for all existence.
It doesn't save us from Tony Stark.
It doesn't save us from Tony Stark. Like, it's just like these things.
And it doesn't save us from Captain America.
And like the thing, like Captain America ended up in a happy way, I guess. That's the happiest ending.
It seems like they were actually planning that ending for a really long time.
It does.
So that's one of the ones I'm not as upset about, but killing Black Widow was a time. Marvel is so hung up on the what if concept. It's so hung up on it's an issue they faced in comics where death doesn't feel real anymore. Like, losing a character doesn't feel substantial because
I think it does feel substantial.
No, but because you always think, oh, they might come back.
But we can only, if we want that character to come back, we like I don't know. I'm really struggling with the Marvel format. Just that stories don't end when they're supposed to end. Like, you need to tell a complete story within. There is no scope.
Happy endings in Marvel.
Yeah, I think that's it. There is no happy endings in Marvel.
You need a happy ending sometimes.
Yeah.
It can't all be bittersweet, because then you average it out and it's negative.
It's always negative, yeah.
And it I think what they did with Infinity War, where it was one of the first whoa, that's devastating endings, was great. But then they got hung up on the idea that they could always do that, and that they don't need to tell a complete story in one movie.
Whereas they used to tell complete stories in one movie and then ... leave like the breadcrumbs. It was like breadcrumbs. It wasn't like, and now half your story is in another castle. It's like, what is happening? Phase 4 has been that way for me the whole time. Yeah. It's very frustrating. And like, I mean, just want to see people have happiness in the end. We'll go through hell if people end up being happy. And it is frustrating.
Like, narratively, like, when you're watching a story and you're like interacting with a piece of media, sure, maybe book 1, it's like you have to think about it like book writing in some ways. It's like you have to
complete the story you're writing.
You have to complete the story you're writing, and then you can write a sequel, and the sequel can tie in, and you can have like a bonus chapter at the end where they're like, oh, this actually is happening, and that's like interesting. Read my next book. But like, it's still a complete story. You didn't just send in the half a manuscript.
Well, they talk about how in trilogies, the middle chapter is always like ends in a dark way. It's like everything is a middle chapter in Marvel. So like, what is happening?
Like, can we have a slight end? Like, and especially with their series that always end in like this, like, what? Okay. Like, Marvel, stop hurting me, man.
Yeah, exactly.
You're like, oh,
well, okay, I'm gonna hurt you. I'm gonna hurt you more, but we have to say goodbye to High Tea Loki.
Yeah, I'm okay with that because it's a lot of work for me right now. Actually,
it is, and you're like super busy.
I'm so busy.
I still can't believe that you said yes to this, but I've loved it. I've loved it.
It wasn't that bad. I just needed to make myself write notes more. Like,
yeah.
If this had continued on into like December, I might have been like, please no. Because I have like shows and I'm very busy.
You're a busy high schooler.
But like, you know, it was at the perfect time where I could be like, oh, you know, I'm not that busy. And having just like one thing to do on the weekends now it's gonna be nice to me.
Yes.
Because this was kind of a lot. But I'm very happy to have done this with you, Mom. I think you enjoyed it because you always like having stuff to do with people. You're one of those people you can't get love from unless we do things together.
I like activities. It's true. And this talking about media and talking about fiction makes me super happy.
You should, if you want more of me, you can watch the What the Fiction in across the Spider-Verse, because I have lots of good thoughts on that.
Yeah, people liked your thoughts on that one. And
Yeah.
also, we just recorded the Marvels from this weekend. So
I don't know if I
you've
had
seen
such
that-
good thoughts there.
That's okay.
There was a lot of bleed and a lot of frustration at Marvel because we've been... What is that smell? Sorry, we've been having a really interesting time with it.
The dinner is almost ready.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a feeling I'm not gonna like this. It's fine. But wow, we're at the end. It's not all bittersweet, guys. It's a good ending. We're very happy with Loki. I'm sure we've raved about it enough. We got Mobius on a jet ski, which was my main concern at the end of season 1. We got, like they gave us the fan service. I'm gonna go read fan fiction about this.
They didn't kill Sylvie. Yay.
Oh, they didn't kill Sylvie. I'm so happy. I was
like
so
our
afraid.
bar is that low that they didn't kill Sylvie, and we're like, yeah, they didn't kill Sylvie. Oh my god, this is where we're at right now. Okay, so I'm sure
They didn't kill our female lead.
I'm sure you're listening, Marvel, but you gotta fix this. But yeah,
Get some of those new writers in.
Yeah.
Make the Young Avengers so profitable. Make it so good. Make it so happy. Give these children joy.
All right. Any final thoughts on this episode or on doing high tea low key?
I really loved it. I think for what it is, the episode is pretty good. It's not as bad as it could have been. It could have been way worse. They could have killed Sylvie, and he still would have sacrificed himself anyway. Like,
yeah, and everybody was ended up miserable.
yeah, right? Like, worse things could have happened. Mobius got his full-on character arc. Well, full-on. He got his side plot. B-15 ended up in a place of authority, which we predicted. Casey is also in a place of authority, which is really cool. Happy about that. Sylvie is left in this kind of gray area, but she's always been in the gray area. It's kind of her thing. I hope she goes back to her McDonald's job and her vinyl records and her 80s.
I don't think that she was really happy there. I think it was just like a waiting room. So I
hope that she goes and finds happiness.
If we're able to have Sylvie back in the MCU, which I totally hope we're able to, I hope that she takes over and plays a role in some sort of Asgardian conversations in the future. I hope that happens. I hope we get Sylvie back, and I hope we get Loki in some media in the future, but it's not a guarantee. And that's the key. The story could be done, and we'll have to be resigned to that. All right. Well,
media ending is not a bad thing, Marvel.
Yeah, like you can do satisfying happily ever after stories.
We know you can. We've seen it.
That's our preference. Go back to like phase 1 and rewatch your movies, I guess. Anyways,
let's go watch Hawkeye.
Let's go watch Hawkeye tonight. Yeah.
Go enjoy your tea. Have some time spend. Tell the people you love that you love them.
Yeah, that's important too.
Watch feel good Hallmark Christmas movies.
Yes, do that.
Don't
everybody hug a loved one, because yeah, you're not alone.
You're not alone. You do. Unlike Loki, you do not have to sit at the end of time.
God. All right, let's wrap this up. Take care, everyone, and cheers.
Bye.